The HOA president called 911 claiming armed men were gathering illegally in a residential garage. What she didn't know? Every single one of us was law enforcement, and the weapons she was reporting were locked, registered, and completely legal. By the end of that night, she wasn't filing complaints anymore. She was explaining herself to internal affairs. It started as something harmless. Just a Friday night get-together at my place. My garage was open, lights warm, classic rock playing softly, folding tables, burgers on the grill, coolers full of soda and beer. Nothing wild, no chaos. Just 6 off-duty officers from the same precinct unwinding after a brutal week. We do this once a month. No uniforms, no badges out. Just friends decompressing. A couple of us had our service weapons on us, holstered, concealed, legal, normal. We live in a state where off-duty carry is completely lawful, especially for sworn officers. And yes, we're trained professionals. But apparently, that was about to become a neighborhood emergency. Her name was Linda, mid-50s, clipboard personality, permanent squint. The kind of woman who walked her dog like she was patrolling a border. She'd warned me twice before about excessive driveway parking, garage door visibility violations, unapproved social gatherings, all loosely interpreted HOA nonsense. But this time, she escalated. Around 8:45 p.m., my buddy Ramirez nudged me. "Hey, someone's taking pictures." Across the street, Linda, standing under a street lamp, phone raised, zooming in, on us, on the garage, on the visible holsters. She didn't wave, didn't approach, just photographed, then walked away. Ramirez laughed. "She thinks we're a militia." We shrugged it off. Big mistake. At 9:12 p.m., 2 patrol cars rolled into the subdivision. Lights on. Not full sirens, but enough to turn heads. Neighbors peeked through blinds. Garage music cut. We all looked at each other. "You guys expecting company?" Someone joked. Then we saw who stepped out of the patrol vehicle. Officer Daniels, from our own department. He walked up slowly, confused expression already forming. What's going on here?" I stepped forward. "Barbecue?" He exhaled hard. "We got a 911 call reporting armed men gathering and possibly brandishing weapons." Silence. Then laughter. Not mocking, just disbelief. Daniels looked embarrassed. The caller stated there were multiple tactical firearms visible and that the HOA has banned guns in community spaces. Ramirez blinked. "Community spaces?" I gestured around. "This is my garage. Private property, owned, documented, mortgage paid." The second patrol officer scanned us carefully. Recognition hit. "Oh, you're all—" "Yep," one of us replied. Badges came out briefly. Professional courtesy. Identification clear. Daniels rubbed his forehead. "She said she felt unsafe." Here's where it gets interesting. Linda had recently pushed through a new HOA guideline titled Community Safety Enhancement Policy. In it, she claimed, firearms may not be displayed in visible areas. Weapons are prohibited in shared spaces. Gatherings involving firearms must be reported. It sounded official, but legally, it meant nothing. HOAs cannot override state firearm laws, especially not on private property, especially not for sworn law enforcement. She was banking on intimidation, not legality. Daniels sighed. "I have to at least clear the call." He turned to his partner. "Everything good here." We cooperated fully. Weapons remained holstered. No alcohol impairment, no disorderly conduct, noise level well within city ordinance, completely clean. Daniels shook his head. "You guys good. Sorry about this." But before they could leave, headlights appeared again. Linda, pulling up, watching, waiting, expecting arrests. She stepped out of her SUV with visible confidence, pointed. "There, those are the men." Daniels turned slowly. "Ma'am, they're homeowners." "They have guns out." "No, ma'am," he replied calmly. "They have legally carried firearms." She stiffened. The HOA has banned guns in this neighborhood. And that's when Officer Daniels said something that changed everything. Ma'am, HOA policies don't supersede state law. Her face shifted. Confusion, then irritation. That's not what our attorney said. Daniels glanced at me briefly, then back at her. Well, your attorney is wrong. Silence dropped like a hammer. Linda wasn't used to losing control. They're intimidating the community. Ramirez raised an eyebrow. We're eating burgers. She ignored him. They're armed and drinking. Daniels responded carefully. Officers are allowed to carry off duty, and no one appears intoxicated beyond legal limits. She looked around, realizing no one was being detained. No one cuffed. No one searched. Her power play had failed, but she wasn't done. You'll be hearing from the HOA board, she snapped at me. I smiled calmly. I look forward to it. The patrol cars left, neighbors retreated, garage door closed halfway for privacy. The music resumed. But the vibe had changed. It wasn't just a party anymore. It was a line drawn. Because when someone calls 911 falsely, that becomes a documented incident. And if it's knowingly exaggerated, that becomes misuse of emergency services. Linda thought she was enforcing community rules. What she had just done was file a false police report against 6 officers, Monday morning, certified envelope, HOA letterhead. I already knew who it was from. Notice of immediate compliance violation. Inside, hosting an unauthorized gathering, display of prohibited weapons, creating a public safety disturbance, violating community safety enhancement policy. Fine proposed $1,000 plus potential suspension of community privileges. I read it twice, then laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was reckless. Here's what Linda didn't understand. When she called 911, she created documentation, dispatch logs, audio recording, officer body cam footage, incident report, everything she said, recorded, including, they're waving guns around. They're threatening neighbors. I think they might be militia. None of which happened. At all. And exaggerating a threat involving firearms? That's not a minor accusation. That's a felony-level panic trigger. By noon, our group chat was active. Ramirez. She find you? Miller. Oh, this is gonna be good. Daniels. Internal Affairs flagged the 911 transcript. That got my attention. Flagged. Because when someone falsely reports armed activity in a residential zone, departments review it carefully, especially when officers respond, and especially when the suspects are sworn personnel. Wednesday night, community clubhouse, packed. Linda stood front and center, projecting confidence. As many of you are aware, there was a dangerous situation on Oak Ridge Drive. Dangerous. Interesting choice of word. She clicked a PowerPoint slide. Unauthorized armed gathering. A couple neighbors looked confused. One raised a hand. Was anyone arrested? Linda hesitated. No, but that doesn't negate the risk. Another voice. I saw them. They were just grilling. Whispers started. She continued anyway. Our HOA enacted the Community Safety Enhancement Policy to protect families. That's when I stood up. Calm. No uniform. Just a homeowner. Can you clarify something? I asked. She stiffened. Yes. Which state statute allows an HOA to override legal firearm carry on private property? Silence. She flipped papers. That's not the point. It is exactly the point. Just like last time, the HOA attorney joined by speakerphone. Linda explained confidently, they were visibly armed in a residential garage. The attorney asked one question. Were they on common property? No. Were they violating state firearm law? Long pause. I don't believe so. Another pause. Then the HOA has limited authority. Limited. That word echoed in the room. I didn't plan to escalate, but Linda already had, so I requested to speak. I've obtained the public incident report, I said. Murmurs. It shows the responding officers found no disorderly conduct, no brandishing, no illegal activity. Someone in the back asked, "Then why were police called?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Everyone turned to Linda. The treasurer leaned toward the attorney on speaker. "Could we be liable?" The attorney cleared his throat. "If the 911 report knowingly exaggerated events, yes," Linda snapped. "I felt unsafe." The attorney responded carefully, "Feeling unsafe does not justify false statements." Boom. That was the crack in her authority. Here's what most HOAs forget. They're corporations, and corporate liability is real. If a board member files a knowingly false report, attempts to enforce unlawful restrictions, issues retaliatory fines, the association can be sued, personally and collectively. And guess what? We had 6 officers present, all witnesses, all documented. I addressed the fine directly. "I'm formally disputing it." The acting secretary nodded. "On what grounds?" "Unlawful policy enforcement and retaliatory action following a cleared police call." The room got quiet. Because suddenly this wasn't about noise complaints. It was about lawsuit territory, and insurance premiums, and personal liability. Then something unexpected happened. One of the neighbors stood up. "I don't like guns," she said honestly. "But I don't like misuse of 911 more." Another chimed in. "My cousin's a dispatcher. False gun calls are serious." Support shifted, not toward firearms, toward fairness. Linda was losing the narrative. After the meeting, 2 board members pulled Linda aside, voices raised, hands moving sharply. The treasurer looked pale. Because here's the hidden issue. HOA insurance policies often exclude coverage for intentional misconduct. If she knowingly exaggerated, the board might not be protected, and if officers filed a formal complaint, things could escalate fast. The next afternoon, I received a call from a lieutenant, not aggressive, professional. "We're reviewing the 911 call for accuracy," he said. Translation: if there was intentional false reporting, consequences follow. Not because we're officers, but because firearm panic calls can trigger lethal responses, and that's dangerous, very dangerous. Friday evening, another certified letter arrived, this one shorter. Notice of fine withdrawal pending legal review. Pending legal review. That means we might have messed up. Linda hadn't expected resistance. She expected intimidation to work. She expected uniforms to scare. She forgot something important. We understand the law better than she does. That weekend, she posted in the HOA Facebook group. Recent events show why stricter safety policies are necessary. The comments didn't go her way. Police cleared them. This seems excessive. 911 should be for emergencies. Are we paying legal fees for this? That last one hit hard, because legal consultations cost money. HOA money, resident money, Sunday evening, doorbell, Linda, alone, no clipboard, no confidence. "This has gotten bigger than it needed to," she said. I leaned against the doorframe. "You called armed emergency response on a barbecue. You had guns visible. We're allowed to. You were drinking. Within legal limits." She exhaled. "I was trying to protect the neighborhood." "And who protects us from false accusations?" She didn't answer, because she knew. By Monday, Internal Affairs confirmed review of the call recording. Standard procedure. But serious. Not criminal yet, but evaluative. If a civilian knowingly fabricates a weapons threat, charges can apply, and even if not, it destroys credibility, especially for an HOA president claiming community safety. The community divides. Half the neighborhood stayed quiet. The other half started asking questions about authority, about overreach, about whether an HOA president should weaponize emergency services over personal discomfort. The narrative shifted from guns in a garage to 911 misuse. And once that shift happens, it's hard to reverse. 2 weeks. That's how long it took. Internal Affairs completed their standard review of the 911 call. No criminal charges were filed, But the conclusion was clear. The call exaggerated the situation. There was no brandishing, no threats, no disorderly conduct, no public danger. The responding officers had handled it professionally, but the report also noted something important. Caller statements significantly overstated observed activity. That line mattered, because now it wasn't opinion. It was documented. At the next HOA board meeting, something shifted. The association's insurance representative joined via speaker. Not the HOA attorney, the insurance company. And they had concerns. If a board member knowingly enforces unenforceable policies or files inaccurate emergency reports, liability coverage may not apply. That room went silent, because lawsuits don't just hurt reputations, they empty reserve funds. And once HOA insurance premiums go up, they stay up. Residents started whispering again. Now it wasn't about guns, it was about money. A special meeting was called. Agenda: Review of Community Safety Enhancement Policy. Vote on policy validity. Vote of confidence in HOA President Linda walked in early. Didn't speak to anyone, didn't make eye contact. She looked smaller than she had 2 weeks ago. The board opened the floor. I didn't speak first this time. A neighbor did. I don't agree with guns personally, but I agree with the law. Another added, calling 911 over a barbecue was too much. Someone from the back said what everyone was thinking. We can't have leadership that creates legal exposure. That was it. Not anger, not yelling. Just calm accountability. The first vote was on the so-called gun ban. The attorney clarified publicly, HOAs cannot restrict lawful firearm possession inside private residences or garages unless specifically allowed by state statute. That is not the case here. Ballots were collected, counted. The policy was struck down, officially void. Just like that. Months of Linda's safety reform erased in 5 minutes. Then came the second vote. Confidence in HOA leadership. Linda stood. I acted in what I believed was the community's best interest. No one interrupted, but no one nodded either. Ballots again. Quiet room, paper shuffling. The count wasn't even close. She was removed as HOA president. Effective immediately. No shouting, no applause, just consequences. 3 days later, there was a knock on my door. Linda. No board title anymore. No authority. Just a neighbor. I shouldn't have called 911, she said. That was the first real sentence of ownership she'd spoken. I let my personal discomfort turn into escalation. I didn't gloat, didn't push. I never wanted conflict, I replied. I know, she said quietly. And for the first time in weeks, there was no tension, just clarity. A month later, things were calm again. Garage nights continued, music low, friends laughing, no patrol cars, no flashing lights, no Facebook debates. And something else changed. The HOA adopted a new rule. Any emergency service call made in the name of the association must first be reviewed by at least 2 board members, unless there is an active life-threatening situation. Translation: no more emotional 911 calls. No more personal crusades disguised as policy. Here's the part that sticks with me most. Linda wasn't evil. She wasn't malicious. She was afraid. And instead of asking questions, she tried to control what she didn't understand. That's how most overreach happens. Not from hatred, from fear mixed with authority, but authority without understanding. That's dangerous. And in this case, it backfired. A few weeks later, I saw her walking her dog again. Same path, same streetlight. But this time, she didn't stop, didn't stare, didn't take pictures. She simply nodded and kept walking. Balance restored. Not because someone won, but because accountability showed up. She called 911 thinking she was stopping a threat. Turns out, the only real danger that night was unchecked power.